PTC Creo Parametric Lesson 7, Part 1. The swing clamp arm for Lesson 8, 9, and 11 and 12, on just 12, is going to be the next one that we create. This model, I still have the same session up as I did when I was working on Lesson 6 and I'm doing the lecture. So first thing I want to do before I start modeling, I'm going to go and I'm going to manage the session, and I'm going to erase what's been used before. So these were active parts and they're still in session, so I'm going to clear them out. Now, this clamp arm is going to be used in the assembly, like I just mentioned, in the assembly drawing, and it's going to also be detailed in lesson number 10. So we're going to divide this into probably 3 different parts, and we're going to create the arm cast part or workpiece first. So start with new part, give it the correct name. I have my trimetric set, my standard orientation set to isometric, not trimetric. So I'm just going to rotate it around. Instead of going back in and changing it, I'm just going to work with it like it is. And my first feature is going to be a simple extrusion. I'm going to click on the front datum plane to sketch. And right mouse button, circle. Circle in there. And I know the dimension of the circle is going to be 2 inches. Right mouse button, OK. And the depth is going to be 1.75. Click. And if I go back over to here, I can take a look at some of these dimensions. So I made this first round protrusion here, 175 in depth, 2 inches in diameter. Now, it's still active. You can see it's selected over here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on copy and then paste special, and I'm going to apply rotate and movement to it. I'm going to turn off the display copy, the independent copy I should say, so it will be independent. And what it's looking for is a movement directional reference. So I'm going to come and select the datum plane that passes through the middle here, right datum, and I'm going to drag it to 5 inches. Double click 5, that's the easiest way. So I have my first feature and I'm copying that feature. And I'm going to leave it in 3D when I work, and I'll leave on the shading with reflections. Check. Now, if I click right mouse button, edit, it's going to only give me the dimension in between the two copy, or the copy and the original. If I deselect by clicking the left mouse button anywhere, and I double click onto the copy, since I made it independent, I'm going to change the depth here to 875. And the diameter to 1.5. Now I'm going to click with my left mouse button and click again, and it regenerates. So the next feature I'm going to create is a web between the two, and I'm going to start off by putting in a datum plane I can work with. So I'm going to select the front datum plane, and I'm going to then select plane as the tool, and you can see it offsets it, and the size that I want here is 0.375, 0.4375, and enter. Click OK, and I have my new construction datum that I'm going to use. So I want to make a web between these two. This web won't have any dimensions. So I'm going to click on extrude, and I'm going to still work in 3D. In the book, it makes you go into the sketch view in 2D. So here, right mouse button, circle. Oh, before I do, sorry, middle mouse button, and I want to right mouse button, use references as my selection, and pick on the two curves. Now when I go in and I select circle, it's going to lock into the middle when I click there and lock into the reference. And basically I want to repeat that. Click the middle for our first reference and then the edge, like so. So you can see I have actually a section, but it has two circles instead of anything connecting. So what I want to do is go up to the line tool and select line tangent and pick on the two curves on the top and then the two curves on the bottom. You'll see the T show up. Middle mouse button. Now it's got overlapping geometry, so I'm just going to click one more time, click on delete, and I'm going to delete by dragging a spline, my cursor, through the outer edge to remove those entities. Now I still have something going on here, and if I zoom in I'll see I have a little tiny piece hanging over. So I need to go in and delete that segment. And I need to do it on the other side also. And then when I click my middle mouse button, I'm going to get my shaded section. So it's a valid section. No dimensions. We have T, 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 and we have R1 equal R1, R1, and R2, R2. These radiuses, most CAD systems divide circles into halves. That's why it's showing up as R1 equals R1, R1, R2, R2. So I'm going to click on OK. And I want this to be symmetric. So if I put my cursor over the drag handle, select symmetric. And this is going to be 0.375. And middle mouse button. And I have my second feature. Well, I should say my third feature, because one is a copied feature. All right, now I want to put a rib in between, but before I do, this last feature I created, if I click once and then another time, I'm going to change the name of that to a web. So I give a name to that feature itself. And I'm going to go in and do shading with edges. And as far as my appearance gallery goes, I think I'll make a different color, select a different color, and also edit that color. And close. All right, now I want to connect these two surfaces here, cylindrical surfaces, above the web with a rib. Now the rib tool, I can pre-select if I want. I can pre-select the datum plane down the middle of the part here. And model tab and select rib. Now when you do, you want to select the profile rib, not the trajectory rib. And then I'm going to put this one into 2D. And if I wanted to, I could actually flip the sketching plane, like so. Now, I'm going to go from here to here. And I think I'll keep it into 3D still. So basically, I want to put one piece of geometry in there. But before I do, I want to have new references. I want to have a reference for this and for this surface here too. Let me see if I did that right. It's hard to pick. So instead I'll put it into 2D and I'm going to select my references here and here. Makes it a little bit easier. See the line that it put in there? It's a reference. So right mouse button, line chain, and I'm going to come over and I'm going to select a point on each one of the references. Middle mouse button twice. Now, Still working in 3D as much as I can here. And I want a dimension from the top face here up to the point instead of the one that it's giving me, instead of this one. Right mouse button, dimension, click the face, upper face of the web, and then the point, middle mouse button. And this one is 0.15. And then I want another reference, another dimension from this reference to this reference point. And this one is 0.9875. Hit enter. I want to make sure that I did that one correct. I'm going to scroll down here to get to it. .9875. Okay. So I've got my geometry created correctly, and basically what's going to happen is anything from this entity towards the references is going to fill in. So click on OK. If your arrow is going in the wrong direction, just flip it and then drag this out to 0.375. Middle mouse button, shading with reflections, go back into my standard orientation, which is isometric. And the last thing I'm going to do for this portion is I'm going to put in a round. But in this case, I'm going to select auto round. And it's going to be 0.04. Check. Take a little while to process this. So instead of adding rounds to all the edges manually, this will create a completely rounded part. You can actually exclude surfaces and edges also with this command. Our purpose here is to create a casting or a workpiece, and then later what we're going to do is we're actually going to continue on and we're going to add cuts to the top and bottom of both of the cylinders here and put some holes in. Those are going to be the machine surfaces. These are all the casting surfaces at this point. And we did everything in 3D. Now, I don't know if you can see it on my model here. And see if I change it to shading. Now it looks okay. I have on the small surfaces should be shaded, and that's what you want in our options. And I think you did the same thing when we did the Creo _textbook.pro file. So there's our first portion of the project. This ends lesson 7, part 1.